Good evening, good evening, good evening. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to the Public Opinion Court in collaboration with the Real Life Street Stars as we are breaking down the Freaky Rico trial day by day, testimony by testimony, witness by witness. And today, day 20, we're on day 20, y'all. Day 20. This thing has been slow cooking. But today we finally got Jane Doe on cross-examination. And it didn't disappoint. Was it a little slow? Yeah, it's a little slow. But we're going to get into it. But before we get into it, I want to make sure as you are entering into the chat and into the screen, make sure you are liking and subscribing. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to allow my guest to introduce herself so we can get straight into it.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me at the Public Opinion Court because we have opinions and the public need to know. So for those that don't know me, my name is Tiffany M. Simmons. I have been called the Plug's lawyer. I own a law firm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and I have been known for my civil litigation as well as my criminal defense litigation, and also known as an undefeated attorney. So as you're tuning in on whatever platform, shouts out to Real Life Street Stars, just know you have two ladies that has the brains and the beauty to let you know what's going on in the courtroom.
Clock it, clock it, clock it. And with that, I needed to address the crowd really quickly because I think some of the viewers have it confused as if we are influencers trying to entertain them about the law instead of us using what we have learned in our knowledge and skills and experience to break down the law. Even though it's related to entertainment, I'm seeing a lot of energy from Black women and Black men in the comment section that is very negative, as if we are here putting on a show. No, we are here educating because we see a gap. And we know, especially with this type of trial, how overloaded you can become in trying to figure out what the hell is the government.
What the helly?
Yeah, what the helly? So we're trying to break down so you won't be like, what the helly? And that's it. That's that. Like, I get it. I know it. So be conscious as a viewer when you are entering into the comment section. Your mean comments, your disrespectful comments does not change the fact that we still wake up every day to do something that we love. And you wake up every day to be mean and post mean comments on social media when you could really be learning from two individuals who have done it over and over again and overcame obstacles and overcame discrimination, racism, everything to be in a position that we can educate, motivate, and not hate.
Exactly.
So keep that in mind as we, clock it and get into it.
And then I also, let me just add something to that, because we do educate and get and put people in their place. There is less than 2% of Black females that are lawyers in the United States. So if you see 100 attorneys, there are only 2 that look like me and my good sis. So keep that in mind, as she said, when you talk about certain attorneys, when you talk about the things that we're sharing with you, when you talk about our looks or how we say it or how we present ourselves, look in the mirror and look at yourself before you talk about us.
Yeah. Yeah. Clock it, clock it, clock it, y'all. Now listen, today as we get into breaking down Jane Doe. Now Jane Doe is on day 4. Day 4. And this is I'm pretty sure this is reminding her of a hotel night binge. Because remember she said some days it'll be 3 days that they would be doing these binges, and other like 72 hours. So I'm pretty sure she feels like she's in a pressure cooker that doesn't involve using her vagina, and but now it revolves around using her brain. So just to give you all some of the context for the attorney, that I'm pretty sure y'all know Mark Garagos. He is a consultant on this case. Mark Garagos, he's this celebrity attorney, old man, and his daughter is on the case. I think her first name is Ashley. I know her last name is Garagos, but baby, today she was giving me uncooked chicken.
That's what you say. Uncooked chicken. I think that for a person, and we mentioned this earlier, she's on this trial because of the relationship with her dad. So when we're looking at a person that may not have that dog in them, like a me or you would have on trial, then you probably would get uncooked chicken. I don't know if it will hurt or harm Diddy in this case, because the testimony of Jane Doe, the examination of Jane Doe, as we talked about yesterday, the strategy of using a woman, that was, a good strategy, using a woman to cross-examine the alleged victim, Jane Doe. So we see, and we called it out as to what they would do. But if you're going to be up there in a high profile case, it doesn't matter that the person is your dad. You need to show up and show out for your client.
Yeah. I'm not impressed as of right now with her approach, because it, like I said, uncooked chicken, an uncooked piece of chicken does not have seasoning, it does not have flavor, is bland, is giving very much basic. And I need her to have shown up with the seasoning, with the injections in the chicken, like stuffing the chicken with some kind of flavor. So I'm hoping tomorrow she gives flavor, but I feel like today she was cleaning the uncooked chicken. I could tell she had her vinegar water. I could tell that she was trying to wash that chicken off in order to properly season it and get it ready so the jury could feast on the final servings of what she was cooking up. But today, Garagos, I need you to understand that it wasn't given, but I have faith. I have faith that you are going to bring it home. Okay? So let's get on into it.
Now listen though, but it also could be trial strategy for the defense team to kind of go light on this particular day. So we never know, but we'll see tomorrow what takes place. Someone put in the comments that American Bar Association, the statistic for Black attorneys is 5%, not 2%. That is correct. But what I said was Black female.
Yes.
So Black female. Sharon, Denise, sis, good sis, you don't have to go back and clarify when you can take my words if you truly listen. I said for Black females, we're less than 2%.
Yeah.
And part of my mission is to raise that. So thanks, Sharon, for showing us in real time what people do to us overqualified Black women in power. You try to undermine us, but it's okay, Sharon. Thank you for that stat. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for the stat. Thank you.
Look, I'm being spicy tonight. I'm
just
giving
like
the spice that
Jane was spicy today.
Should have gave.
Baby, Jane was spicy. Baby, Jane was definitely spicy today. So let's get into the testimony today. Let me see if I can make us a little bigger. Hold on. Let me play around with this.
Okay, so can I throw one more thing out before we get into the testimony? Because of course we've seen comments, we've seen people all over social media talking about this trial. And one of the things that is a theme amongst Black men in power is, oh, they're a Black man in power and people are trying to tear them down. Oh, they're a Black man in power, so why aren't we supporting? All of those different conversations surrounding Sean Combs being accountable for his actions. Now, let me throw this question out there to the people that are in support of Sean Combs in the sense of this is wrong, that they're doing him wrong. What if Sean Combs got to the place of power that he was in and never bit the apple? Yeah, Hugh Hefner did a lot of these same things, and it's murders and all sorts of things surrounding Hugh Hefner. Yeah, Epstein did this, and he, went to trial and all of the things, and there were victims. But when a Black man gets in a certain position, why do you have to bite the apple of power to even participate in freak-offs? Why do you have to bite the apple of power to even solicit entertainers for your bi-curious needs?
Yes.
Why do you have to abuse the power once you get there just because you see your counterparts being able to abuse that same power? Because if Puffy, Sean Combs never bit the apple that Epstein, Hugh Hefner, whoever that we see men in power do, because let's face it, people in power, they don't have rules. But imagine if Sean Combs said, you know what? I'm going to create rules for myself, because I know as a man in power, a Black man in power in America, they're waiting to tear me down. Imagine if he had that much accountability.
And that's very important. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people miss the fact that what is the why behind this particular case? Many people are using the color of his skin as the why. I look at it from the standpoint of people have been silent for so long about sexual assault in relationships, relationship rape, relationship trafficking. No one wants to talk about that uncomfortable lane, because if we start talking about it,
you have to do something about it.
You have to do something about it. And more individuals who have contributed to relationship assault will have to look themselves in a mirror and realize, dang, I'm a rapist.
Yeah.
My partner said no, but I still forced my partner to endure to fulfill my sexual needs.
Yep.
So people don't register that part because they don't believe that people in relationships can be sexually assaulted. That is a proven fact. As soon as your partner says no or they don't want to, and you start pressuring them to do something that they don't want to, and that leads to them submitting to your demands, you are a conduit to sexual assault, sexually pressuring your partner to fulfill a need that you need to understand is not a need, it's a want. Want and needs are two different things. You don't need to rape your partner. You wanted to fulfill a sick fetish in your brain that would not turn off because you thought that you deserved someone's no and turned it into a yes. So
yep,
I just wanted to highlight that because I think a lot of people are missing the how this case alone is going to highlight sexual assault, rape in relationships. So we gotta start talking about we need to start talking about that. Hold on. Let me highlight this question. Yes, say that more Black men would have to come to the front.
Well, just men in general, but we can speak about those that look like us. But yeah, the testimony, I definitely reviewed the cross examination, and it just Jane Doe, she definitely down bad in my opinion. She's definitely down bad in my opinion.
Ooh, child. So let's go ahead and start with Attorney Garagos on her start of her cross examination. She comes out the gate and says, we've met several times. And
Right.
in her doing that, she's trying to get the jury to understand it's not the first time that we've had any interactions. So Jane says yes. She says, you then stop responding to us. Attorney Garagos. Jane, yes. You received immunity at the grand jury proceeding. She says yes. And you are here testifying against Diddy. She says yes. She asks her, the government has prepped you for cross more than one time. She says yes. And let me stop right there, because this is something that every attorney or litigator should be doing. You should not only prepare your witness for direct. Direct is easy because they are comfortable with you, so they're going to have that sense of comfort coming from you. But you have to prep your witnesses on cross. You got to put them in the lion's den. You got to make sure.
Hold on, sis. We have some people that may not ever heard what direct and cross is. So direct examination is when your attorney is asking you questions. Cross examination is when the other attorney is asking you questions. So I try to break it down so people, even a 5-year-old, can understand where we're going with it.
Yeah. So you are supposed to, whether you are defense, whether you are in civil, criminal, family, you need to put your client or witness in the lion's den and make them feel like they are on fire and they need a fire extinguisher, because that's exactly how cross-examination will feel and should feel from the opposing counsel. So that was one of the reasons why she asked that, because she's trying to lay out, okay, you practiced this before. So you, in a sense, are performing. You're not here with a raw, uncut view of what is about to happen. And more so, she's met with these people several times until it was time for her to flip. So,
and then she also, and when I say she, Attorney Garagos, mentioning the fact that Jane Doe received immunity, that can be interpreted different ways by the jury. And of course, a defense attorney would want the jury to interpret that in a way that, hey, this witness is getting up here saying whatever because they got immunity. Just as we seen in the Tory Lanez trial. Kelsey, she was granted immunity. She got up on that stand and, oh, I plead the fifth. I don't know anything, etc. So just know, Attorney Garagos bringing up the fact that Jane Doe received immunity is to try to tear at her credibility.
So then she went on to ask her, she went into the nature of their relationship after highlighting that. She was like, you didn't want to break up with him. And she was like, no, you had sex with other men for years while you were with him. And she was like, yes, but I resented the emotional control. I was hooked from the start. There was pressure to perform these types of acts. So hold on one second. She was like, there was pressure to perform these types of acts. And the attorney said, he was your partner, right? And she was like, yes. Well, you said you had a problem answering for yourself when you had sex with other men? She was like, yes. And I was like, okay, where's she going with this? Because I see what she's doing in a sense of, okay, you made it seem like on direct examination that you had no power. You couldn't speak up for yourself.
But you like this with every man that's paying the bill, apparently.
So she went on to ask her, she was like, you just started therapy. And she was like, yes, I've been in therapy for 3 months, which is not uncommon, especially seeing as though September was when she was removed from the pressure cooker. I would have been in therapy from the moment I was able to get from under his wing. But I kind of feel like she didn't do that because at certain points she was still participating in making it appear she was going to be supporting him and standing by him through this. So I'm thinking I don't know if that was the cause, but the 3 months is giving, she's trying to highlight that this girl may be next to file a civil suit.
That is interesting, and that is a take on it. When I read where she asked her about the therapy for 3 months, for me, I looked at it, and maybe I'm just not sympathetic to this particular witness, but I looked at it as something like she's just going through the process. 3 months really isn't a long time for therapy. So, to even bring that up and talk about the effects of therapy, I feel like she would need to go to therapy a little bit longer than 3 months. Again, a lot of this stuff is happening after, she gets immunity, etc. So is it a setup for a civil suit? I don't think that she will get as much sympathy as Cassie did in her civil suit. And it goes back to what I said yesterday. This woman was 35 when she met Puffy. Cassie was 19, a teenager. So there is a difference in the level of manipulation, grooming, etc. that Cassie experienced, that it appears this woman experienced, but she was more consenting to it in my eyes.
And I think that's where what they're trying to gather on their examination. So after they go into the therapy, her attorney starts going into, well, you love Diddy. And she was like, yes, I love the time with my partner. You wanted to cuddle. She was like, yes, to give him foot rubs. I was like, okay, this is uncomfortable. And we would watch Dateline after. I was like, Dateline?
Right. To Catch a Predator episodes?
To catch Diddy? To catch Diddy?
Right.
So she then asked, did you believe he was not doing this with anyone else? And she says, during our time period, yes. He was vulnerable in those hotel rooms and that I shared with him. It was conflicting. I was breaking all my boundaries so he would feel loved. That was her explanation as to, why she felt like she was the only one. She felt like he didn't want too many people to see that side of him. And I was like,
I'm not believing it, sis. I'm not believing it. Not too much, because she even says, she did whatever to make him happy, etc. I mean, letting a man call you crack pipe, you pretty desperate for love. And I'm not trying to be too hard on Jane Doe, but as a woman, we have to do better. We have to be more accountable for our actions. And I feel as though she is somewhat removing her liability and accountability from this.
So when she went into as to her explanation of feeling like he was very vulnerable in them times, is she brought up the fact that she felt like he was gay. She felt like he liked men, and she felt like the interactions that he would have in those rooms as he looked at men, as also asking for those pictures to look at men's genitals, things like that led her to feel like, oh, this man do not want everyone to see this side of him, because if people saw this side of him, then they would know that he bisexual.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, it's nothing wrong with being bisexual. And I agree, but Diddy, he felt like he only wanted to use certain women so that he can get the semen from men to put on his chest and rub and play in another man's semen. So, I mean,
well, the thing is, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to think that he was at the least bi-curious, because I don't understand why a straight male would want another male's semen on his to rub on his body as they rub the baby oil.
and then to go straight commando into the vagina that just had somebody else's penis in them.
Exactly. One of the statements that I would use as a defense attorney to our benefit is the statement Jane Doe made surrounding, him being vulnerable, when she said, I was breaking all my boundaries so he would feel loved. That sentence right there, as a defense attorney, I would use that little trinket of gold to reiterate. She knowingly did this, willingly did this. She even said herself, I broke my own boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So that shows, some sort of culpability on her part. And as a defense attorney, I would use that. I would definitely use that.
And I don't think that Garagos is going to have to huddle up in order to get the experience from better attorneys. For example, she's going to have. I would be in the war room with Steele, as I would not be in the war room with my daddy, who ain't been in a trial to save his life for over decades, over 2 decades at this point. So your daddy is not going to give you that fire that you need, because we need you to get out of that comfort zone of nepotism and get in your damn bag, because these questions, although great rehearsed questions, you are leaving things on the table. You're not closing like you should. You're not tying up that question for the jury to have a different perception of this witness. So she's just asking to be pretty.
And honestly, sis, that is a trial tactic, strategy that isn't really learned. Being in the present moment, being able to take what is being said right at that moment and use it, is a trial strategy. Mm-hmm. Like you said, she's comfortable in what they practiced the other day. Oh, just ask these 5 questions. When you are in litigation and you're a great litigator, you are in there, you might have to change question 6, 7, 8 based on the response that witness gives you and get to that goal. So you're absolutely right. She's going to have to think quicker on her feet. And I don't know this attorney from a can of paint. I would love to see if she has any other trial history or trial wins, or, just how she does as a trial attorney. Is she notable as a trial attorney?
I've never heard of her. Can someone in the chat look her up for us to determine what her her trial record is. Let me get her name.
Attorney Garagos.
Garagos, girl.
Garagos. I didn't say the lady name wrong 3 times. Well, it should be easy, like Simmons or Anderson.
Right? You know. Let me see. Oh, her name is Teeny Garagos. Teny. Someone in the chat, my research and my Googlers, Google her trial record. What is her area of practice, her primary area of practice, and we will kind of break that down as we go through the rest of this. So to get back on track, Jane responded to Garagos when she said, well, that these experiences brought y'all together. And she said, yes, the love making after brought us together. And that to me is showing preparation, is giving preparation. Attorney Garagos goes, well, you chose to participate in this lifestyle. And she said, I was made to under emotional pressure. I was hooked from the beginning and didn't understand what the terms and conditions of this relationship would be. And I was like, Garagos, get in your motherfucking bag right now.
Yes.
Get in your bag.
That was an interesting word choice to even say terms and conditions.
Girl, I'm like, you got her, you asked the right question. You chose to participate in this. As soon as she said that, I would have went straight to her age. I would have said, how old are you? How old were you when you started dealing with Diddy? As soon as she said 35, so you have a lot of life experience. You grew up here. You did this. You've lived.
Hell, and then even bringing up, she has a son with another celebrity. You know this life. This ain't your first rodeo with a powerful man. This ain't your first rodeo with the man that's in the spotlight. Girl, if I was the defense attorney doing cross, I would have ate her ass up today.
Okay, so Garagos she's the founding partner of the firm, i.e. her daddy. Which is great. Like, that's why we as Black people shouldn't have a problem when we allow our children, through nepotism and through the blood, sweat, and tears of what we put into building legacy and building generational wealth, to bring our kids on to carry on the name. So this is what he's doing. And to see that she's doing criminal and federal work, this is her daddy, like her daddy's blueprint. So when you look at that, make sure when you see the LeBrons, the who else?
The Ice Cubes, the LeBrons, the Beyoncés,
the Shaquille.
Maybe one day the Plug's lawyer and my little Plug's lawyer somewhere.
Like, we got to stop that. So back to thank you, Sassy, for looking that up for us.
Yes, thank you.
Because
the last thing that she put, she said that Tanae does work with misconduct cases. So again, this sort of case, being high profile, might not necessarily be her wheelhouse. But it's okay, because here we are to break it down to you guys on the Public Opinion Court.
So she then, like we said, we would have went into talking about her age, her lifestyle, her having experience with dating a rapper, a high profile rapper who is the father of her child. So this kind of lifestyle, what comes with it. And well, let's talk about how you got to know him. You knew that your baby daddy and this man were arch nemesis.
Yep.
Still, you decided to get on this roller coaster and be a willing participant, knowing that there was beef. You are not as slow as you would like to appear. You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew exactly how to get back at your baby daddy. Y'all were beefing. You were mad. You actually took him back to child support court after he was giving you $25,000 a month without blinking an eye, and then you lost it to $4,000. So now you got to figure out how to come up with your next meal ticket. Babe, I would have got all in her vagina.
Yep.
Vagina.
Yep.
That's
Just
how
like
you
the
do it.
men she been setting up.
That's how you do it. Like, you take what they say, but you got to be quick. Only, in my opinion, only litigators that look like us know how to flip that shit real quick. We will reverse Uno your ass, and you don't even know that you owe us a draw for.
Yep. Yep. I will second that. I will always say that melanated litigators are some of the best, because as Black people in America, we always got to think quick on our feet. So in that courtroom, we're going to know what to do. We're going to know how to flip it. She said that Diddy nicknamed her crack pipe. I would have said, well, was you a crack pipe to 50? Like, we know how to get to what we want to say. I mean, I would have asked her, well, were you a crack pipe to these other men that you said that you couldn't speak up to?
And not only that, babe, I would have subpoenaed her phone records for the last 3 to 4 years since y'all been together. I would have found out who else you were dealing with. They didn't.
And who knows if she even was dealing with her child's father at
she was
any
trying
point
to.
in time.
She was trying to. 50 came out, and I don't know if the defense is going to use this. 50 came out and said, you move close. They got to it. I was like, she tried to, and she kept not landing the fucking plane. She asked her, you were trying to make me, you wanted your son's father to be close to him. No, bitch, it is. You move closer to your baby daddy because you didn't feel that Diddy was taking you serious, so you knew where you had a possible home. So you moved closer to your baby daddy to try to get back with him because you wanted to give him another baby in order to continue to reap the benefit.
To have money. Yep. I mean, to say at the right age of 35, and it's not a bad age at all. So don't come for me about the age. But to say at the age of 35 that this man was taking care of you, paying your $10,000 a month rent per month, and still was paying this even as this trial is going on, that let me know that she was okay with an arrangement of this sort.
Yeah.
And again, looking at her word choice, the things that she has said, oh, I didn't understand the terms and conditions. I wouldn't think that a relationship with my lover had terms and conditions.
She talking about that love contract.
Yeah, she
knew.
knew.
I should have brought that love contract out so fast.
Okay, Telly said, ladies, you can flip it all you want. There was still a crime committed. You're absolutely right, Telly. I am speaking in the sense of being a criminal defense attorney. And what is the fun fact about criminal defense attorneys is that we don't have to prove the case for the state. We are there to provide reasonable doubt. We are there to be the voice for our client in the courtroom. So it's not our responsibility as a criminal defense attorney to prove the state's case. But thank you so much, Telly, for your comment.
And to comment on that, the one thing that we like to show, especially on here, is we like to give a balance. We don't like to just be pro government and not show how the defense is actually doing things the proper way or giving how it should be done, even in spite of us possibly feeling a certain way of how we think the case should turn out. So we want to show the standpoint from both lenses. We're not just going to be on here giving rah to the government without also highlighting the efficiency and the effectiveness of the defense, because they also deserve to be, when they are doing things right, and even if they're doing things wrong, we got to show you both sides. Because if you don't see both sides, you'll be out here, one leg limping on the other, thinking that you straight and narrow. No, you can only be straight when you observe both sides. So that's essentially what we're doing.
And most of the people that may see what I'm saying as pro criminals or pro criminal defense are probably the same sorts of people that would love for Attorney Simmons to be their mouthpiece if they were facing a criminal charge. So just think about that when we're talking about these sorts of cases, the trials. Yes, there are victims. Yes, there are people that need to be held accountable, but also we live in a land where people are presumed innocent until they're proven guilty. We live in a land where people are deserving and having constitutional rights to a lawyer, constitutional rights to address their accuser, etc. So let's not forget the constitutional rights that each and every one of us has and would love to use if we were in a similar situation as Sean Combs. Don't forget that, because you wouldn't give a damn about the government if it was you or your loved one in these situations.
So let's get back into her testimony of how, Ms. Garagos is not landing the plane. She's delayed on her landing.
Okay.
TSA, of course, we don't have federal funding for them. So they're like, we're not showing up. We're not helping sis out. We're not landing. She got to land herself. So she goes in to say, after she talks about terms and conditions, attorney says, you tried to be sexy to him in those rooms. I was like, oh, shit.
Oh, wait. But she said her response was, I was sexy in the rooms.
And she was like, she said, well, did you choose the wardrobe? And she was like, no, he did. Of course he did. Of course he did. And the attorney, why did she ask this? He liked baby oil. Girls, get away from that fucking baby oil.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. She did bring up the baby oil. Of course, Jane Doe. Yes, he did.
So she went on to ask, well, how old were you when you started your relationship with Diddy? Finally, she says that I'm 35. Okay, now let's get into putting the season on that chicken, Attorney Garagos. Now let's get into it. She ain't landed. She did not land.
No, because what she did after Jane Doe answered the age question, then Attorney Garagos talks about the fantasy talk. And you're right, that was a prime area that she could have touched on. She could have touched on the age. She could have touched on, well, aren't you old enough to consent? She could have touched on, a wide array of things surrounding the age of this particular witness versus the allegations of sex trafficking minors, the allegations of sex trafficking, sex workers, etc.
I thought she was younger than that. I thought she was like 20, at least 28. That was just I was like, but then I had to think she's very seasoned in this game. So she knew what she was doing.
Yeah. So, and then when the age was brought up, I definitely would use that as a segue to bring up, you're not new to the entertainment life. You're not new to partying and hanging with entertainers. Henceforth, your kid's father.
Now, this is where I think this is why Attorney Garagos with her performing instead of being intentional about her cross-examination, she goes in because the government has painted that especially with Cassie and now with her, Diddy used these opportunities to create a film. He produced it, he starred in it, he featured in it, he wrote it, he lined everything up. And so when she asked about the fantasy talk, that gave Jane Doe the opportunity to say that he would have me and the entertainer play the cheater role, where I would be cheating with the entertainer while he was going out of town. I'm like, Gary goes, that's not how you're supposed to go with that. So instead of her reverting to something more substantive, she goes to ask her some, well, how high, what was the height of the hills? Baby.
Now let me say, add something to that. Examples. What are examples of fantasy room talk? Now you have to be very careful when you are asking open-ended questions on either direct or cross, because you don't know where the person is going. Now, in this example, Jane Doe, like you said, she said, well, he would have me play the entertainer cheater role, etc. But what if Jane Doe would have went somewhere so far-fetched that it threw off attorney Garagos?
Hold on, we got to get somebody together.
Get them together.
So Stanley has entered into the chat. I don't know if Stanley talking about us or he talking about his mama, his sister.
Yeah, let's get them together, and y'all continue to like this video, share it, tell a friend to tell a friend. So let's read it for the people in the back.
He says, LOL, we are living in the world where ghetto people who never, you should have put that in all caps so we could know, it was real. Right. Been to law school can tell a defense attorney how to do their jobs. This shit is funny. Well, let me tell you what's funny, Stanley. What's funny is the fact that we both have over 30 something years in criminal in experience as lawyers in itself, have tried probably over hundreds of cases between the two of us. So for you to get on here with your low IQ,
your low vibrations,
is giving that you hate your life.
Exactly.
It gives that you hate women. It gives that you hate women that actually have done the work, have put in the work, got a blueprint, got a pedigree, got the degrees, something that you never subscribed to. So maybe you should subscribe to what we've done and get out of these comments. Stop lying.
Exactly.
But you don't know.
Stanley, let me throw one more out for Stanley, because we definitely could eat him up. So nice, nasty. Stanley, maybe you didn't check in when we first started the live, but we expressed what our capabilities are. We've expressed our businesses in the areas that we practice in. And I damn for sure let y'all know that I'm an undefeated attorney. So Stanley, maybe you didn't check in early enough, but please get out of the comments with the BS.
And get in somebody's book in somebody's school. Since
right. Read a book, bitch.
Read a book. read several. Okay, now back to we out here really giving people the raw, unfiltered view of what law and how to actually break it down to where a fifth grader can understand. I'll tell you now, my nieces, I can give my nieces a scenario right now, and we can do a mock trial. We can do a mock trial because that's how smart they are. But to get back to what you were saying before I had to abruptly, put it on pause so that we can gather one of the masters boot.
Right. He's definitely one of the house Negroes that was telling on the ones that was paving a way. Because what we're doing is paving a way. None of what we're doing is ghetto. None of what we're doing is uninformed. We're actually using our valuable time to share with the community that clearly is invested in this particular case.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't have had over 5,000 some views in 24 hours just of yesterday. So clearly somebody wanted to learn from us.
So let's get back to the next line of questioning. So she asks about those heels, and we remember those heels that they found in Miami. Them was her heels. She said the heels would be 6 to 7 inches, y'all. I can't walk in those 6 to 7 inches.
No, me neither.
I'm like, I'm busting my ass. And the fact that you can do that in those heels with ecstasy and all these other kind of drugs, God bless you. God bless you. And so this is when she started going into talking about trying to land the plane with the baby daddy. So she was like, you wanted your child to be closer to your child's father. Did the father see the child? Oh my God. That's when they said she started snapping on her. She said she started saying, well, what does that have to do with it? And she started saying, don't call my child a child. Call him a kid. No, my son. She was like, do not reference my child as my son. Reference him as my child.
Okay.
She didn't want anyone to, even though this is Jane Doe and she stated that she has a son, she wants to keep as much of that out of the record as possible.
Right. And I mean, rightfully so, because the record, once this trial is done, it's going to be public. And as a parent, you do want to try to, protect your children as much as you can, from situations like that. I think the attorney definitely was treading on shaky ground when she brought up the fact of the child and the child's father, because again, what did it have to do with this? So I think she should have formulated her question a little bit better if she's trying to hint at who the father is and maybe this, discourse between Sean Combs and the father.
Because here's the thing, if you're going to go in, you got to go all in. That's why I say if you're going to hit her where you're talking about her child's father, then you got to really lay in on, girl, we know Diddy wasn't the only one you were trying to entertain. You were still trying to get back with your baby daddy. And Diddy found out. And y'all had a discussion and y'all got into it about that because you knew that these two men didn't like each other, but you still decided, one, that you was
entertain both.
Not only that, you was going to backdoor your friend who he used to talk to, who he used to give pipe to. You have no loyalty to no one but for your personal gain. Baby,
imagine if the jury heard the attorney say what you just said and drop that mic. That is part of trial strategy, saying something that the jury they'll remember, that they'll hang on to it. When you get a gem like that, that the jury can hang on to it, that's when you say, Your Honor, no further questions for this witness. Yeah. And you sit down.
Yeah. She's doing too much pony fairy tale Meek and mild cross-examination. So I wanted to because a lot of what she asked her, I was just like, girl, this is teeny popper. Like, give us some more. Like, when she went into talking about Young Miami, jealousy. Girl, okay, land the plane. What is the point? Then she was like, oh, you got mad because he brought Young Miami a Chanel and he brought you a Bottega. And at that point, she would say, yeah, Bottega only cost $1,500. you had another opportunity at that moment to highlight her, how superficial she was and how materialistic she was, and how she was looking at the price of things that they were doing for someone else, and she was using it as a talking point to make this person feel guilty, as if they wasn't doing enough.
Now, another way the attorney could have gotten Jane Doe as well is, remember, Jane Doe earlier in her testimony said that she thought she was the only one with him in this way. Well, if we fast forward to this purse conversation, well, hell, you knew it was other women, because you knew that Young Miami got this purse and you got this other purse. So that was another way that she could have chipped at the credibility of Jane Doe. One of the things, because I'm not sure how much more time we got, but I really took a look at, is when Jane Doe admitted to the court that, yes, I started recruiting the men myself. It gave me a sense of control over who I had to be with. What is your thoughts on that, sis?
Listen, after Diddy brought that stinking man up in that room, I would have been on the same wavelength as her. Like, if you gonna bring this stinking man in here and you think this stinking man is about to do any and everything to me, first of all, where the fuck did you find this man? And you are a billionaire. Where are you finding this? This man smells like a garbage can. Hell no. Like, I'm picking the suitors.
To find people on Backpage and Craigslist, you definitely know that they were looking for people that didn't have a lot of resources to either say something, fight against something, and would be a willing participant in the freak offs.
But can we talk about how they didn't make these people sign a fucking NDA?
Yeah.
No, you are out of your rabbit ass mind if you are not having these people sign an NDA. Hence how Sly got Fly and extorted their ass.
Yep. All of this was very messy. Even if at the least Diddy had willing participants, all of this is very messy, and it goes back to what I said in the beginning. Imagine if, with all of the power he amassed, imagine if, with all of the resources he amassed, imagine if Puffy said, you know what, I ain't gonna bite the apple. I might be a little bi, or I might like watching people perform, but I'm not going to bite the apple that other powerful men did, because I don't want them to use my skeletons against me. Imagine if he did that, you guys.
Listen, y'all, listen. This is a case that keep on giving.
So, like, subscribe, y'all, because yes, baby.
This is a case that keep on giving. It was at one point, do y'all know that Diddy introduced her to the Lord? She said he introduced her to spiritual, like whoever his spiritual virtual church was. I know who the church is, like, because he done said it so many times. I was like, ain't no devil. I said, ain't no devil in hell gonna introduce me to the Lord. I'm gonna go find the Lord myself.
Yes. I mean, she definitely mentioned the emotional impact. I mean, she even said that she felt it was spiritual warfare. She says, I had no control over my body, my schedule, or my finances. But again, going back to good criminal defense attorney, my next question would have said, did you want to have control over your schedule? Did you want to have control over your finances? Because you voluntarily took this $10K per month rent. You voluntarily let this man know what your schedule was. So again, if they wanted Attorney Simmons up there, Attorney Simmons would have seasoned that chicken and cooked it to perfection, baby,
Yes.
because I would have got in Jane Doe's behind.
Listen, and even going into the whole control in 2023, when she got that house, you could have gotten a house that wasn't as massive in the amount that you were required to pay. That was a decision that you made.
Yep.
You had the right to make decisions.
Right.
You didn't do that. You did it based off of his income, not your income, because at that moment you went from getting 25,000 with the blink of an eye from your baby daddy to just 4,000 because you used the wrong strategy. So, all in all, with that, y'all, I wanted to go over some of what we identify as the strategy of the defense. So, what, in the sense that I looked at, she was trying to humanize the relationship and reframe it as consensual. So, even with the subtle approach, and it was hard to find approach, I could tell that she was moving more towards sympathy and y'all loved each other. You were a willing, consenting adult. You wanted to please your partner. This is something that you wanted to engage in. These are things that you talked about doing for him also, without him even, bringing it to the table. So I think that is a good way to start seasoning the chicken. I just need her to add some of that. She got to come to the Black people pantry, because she in a white people pantry right now. And
Yep.
it's a Black man. She got to put some of that that Tony's, that slap your mama, all that. So she established that, of course, that Jane Doe was a willing participant. She looked at the emotional complexities, not the criminality, because you want to stay away, as a defense attorney, you want to stay away from the criminality of it, and you want to focus more on the emotional roller coaster that goes on in relationships. That's normal. Like, everybody has those ups and downs and those complex relationships and just the twists and turns of a relationship. So I saw her doing that in a sense. She challenged her credibility through the benefits and inconsistencies of it all. Like, there's a checks and balance. And baby, from the looks of it, your benefits were outweighing the inconsistencies of what you're saying that was not there, because he invested 20,000 in your business. Even though you played a role in allowing him to discount you.
Yep.
That's the responsibility she has to take.
Yep.
She said, let me see. Talked about what you talked about, the decision making. She's 35 years old. You have the power to make those decisions.
And the thing about her with the age and the fact that she has a child with such another high profile person, it wasn't like she, and no shade to any of these celebrities. She literally has her kid's father's arch nemesis, if we look at it in that way. She didn't go get, Fabulous. She ain't go get Jim Jones. She ain't go get Bow Wow. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just naming other people in the industry, in the sense of she went for the powerhouses of entertainment. And that says a lot. And as a criminal defense attorney, I would use that to our benefit. One of the people, they definitely brought up the fact, how did she go from getting 25K to 4K with her kid's father? I'm sure it was, basically probably her going to court requesting more, and 50 with his studious business sense, with him hiring attorneys that's got that dog in them like us. 50 got it down to 4K. You know, I'm not familiar with the family law situation with that, but that's how I'm gonna assume that probably went.
And even now, the fact that she's in California with their son, I mean, she could petition the state of California now, and that could very well change. But if there's anything about a custody situation that's going on, I haven't heard that has been filed. Well, I don't know how that's going to vet even for 50, because, you know, he was found liable for that that revenge porn, and that definitely can be used against him as victimizing a woman by releasing someone's sex tape as revenge to your arch nemesis. And then now her being identified and classified as a victim, because that's exactly what they are doing, that could work against him and not for him, which is why I think she testified and she flipped, because now she has to think about longevity, my son, like custody, like this is going to help me keep custody if I come out in this sense, like the power and control will. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if it's going to be that strategic for him because he got that win, but baby, she better go and do a modification in the state of California, because we know the state of California is about paying that child support, giving them people thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Yes, but if I was one of the great attorneys for 50, I definitely would use her testimony against her, though. This testimony,
I don't think they can, because she is classified as Jane Doe.
Oh yeah, that is very true. That is very true. Well, hear me out. Where I was going with that is the fact that she said that, you know, she didn't really understand terms and conditions, et cetera, et cetera. I was going with those words that she said to use 250's advantage as it pertains to the family law court.
Yeah. And somebody said that in California, they take into consideration the amount of time spent with the child. And we know that there's been statements that she's put out that he don't even come and get our child. He don't even spend time with him. And I mean, the courts do look at that as well. When you are going into a custody situation, I do think this is a situation where 50 does need to be more proactive in his son's life, because we saw what he's done to his previous son and not being present in that son's life. And you don't want to keep creating children and leaving them to be raised by their mother alone, whether you are providing the resources or not. Your kids are just as lucrative of an asset to your life as the liabilities that you're taking on in business. It's a difference. So
and then also, let me add this as well with family law. Although I don't practice family law, we want to say that with family law cases, the courts are always going to do what's in the best interest. So whether it's, you know, 50 or the Jane Doe, they're going to take in totality everything that each parent has done, what each parent is bringing to the child for the betterment of the child.
Yeah.
But get you a family law attorney, because it ain't me, baby.
I don't do family. I did it for 6 months. Hell no.
Yes, family law was not my wheelhouse. But to talk about the overall takeaway of this day 20 of testimony, sis, what you got for them?
So I did a little summary for Garagos, being that this is just brand new. They had her on the stand for all day on cross. She didn't land a plane as much, but I could see where she was going. That's why I said, you know, looking at from the standpoint of white attorneys versus black, white attorneys, they come in with that uncooked chicken. They sometimes they don't clean it, but being as though they got some, you know, some some color folks on they team, they forced to clean the damn chicken. So I could tell that she put the chicken in the vinegar, trying to get the the bad things off, and she's just now starting to season it. Baby, we would have been seasoned that chicken from the
from day one.
That chicken would be in the oven right now getting tenderized. You hear me?
Yes. And then part of strategy as well is, if you could get everything you need out of a witness in a short period of time, the jury will remember that. The jury will like that. Because let's be honest, a lot of juries, they're bored sitting at trials, and not necessarily saying this trial, but in trials in general. The people, the jury, they don't want to be there, number one. So you want to try to make your cross-examination engaging, and you want to try to get to the point as much as you can, because you only have their attention for a short period of time.
I agree. You got to get in. You got to be effective, efficient. It got to roll off of your tongue like melting butter.
I'm telling you, sis.
Listen, that's how cross-examination go. Like, you are going bar for bar in that cross-examination, and you don't care essentially what they are saying, because essentially you as a defense attorney have every right to communicate with that witness prior to testimony. And to me, that's what I'm seeing in this. I don't get a sense that they have communicated or reached out to these witnesses to not necessarily talk about how they're going to approach it, but ask those questions. Get them to commit to certain things that you have asked them, and then remind them on cross-examination, like, we met on such and such day, and when I asked you this question, your response was different.
Yes.
Or in federal court, they have the ability to do depositions on federal cases. So the fact that they didn't even take that route.
Hold on, sis, because we got some not so smart people like Stanley. So let's break it down. Okay. A deposition, for those that don't know what a deposition is, it's basically getting on a record the testimony of your witnesses or your client. And what that does for attorneys, because this is outside of what you see in court. So know that we do more than what you just see in a courtroom. So in a deposition, you're getting the opportunity to ask questions, which means depose the person. Mm-hmm. And when you're deposing the person, your goal is to find information that will help your case. Your goal is to lock that person into something, because like she just said, once I lock you into saying my lipstick is red, if I show up to court with blue lipstick, you can say, no, the plug's lawyer, you told me your lipstick was red, not this blue. So let's pull up the record. And that's what the purpose of a deposition, for those that didn't know.
Yeah. So when you look at an efficient defense team who did not take this opportunity, not just to set up a deposition, we know that's time consuming. You didn't even have a conversation or lock them down on certain things that you could have asked them prior to testimony. You gave the government all of the ability to have access to these individuals and do what they wanted to. So that to me shows that something they are missing, and that's the reason why they're not landing the plane. It's harder for them. They're going through more turbulence because they're in the sky, in the clouds that would normally not be there if they had properly prepped themselves for these type of witnesses by having those conversations. Now they're in the sky and it's bumpy, and then when they come to a smooth spot, it gets bumpy and bumpy and bumpy again. And that shouldn't even be their DNA right now. So I think, like I said, I think her getting to the point of showing the consensual side of the relationship, highlighting her age, is very important because of the the age category of these jurors, they are in that age bracket. And that's the reason why I said she should have hung in more, because you have these middle-aged jurors that understand what it looks like to be 35, and how 35 is where you get your wings and you really are getting the groove of life when you are in your when you
Yes.
get 35.
I mean, people at 35, I was the business owner of Simmons Law in courtrooms, etc. So the naivete that she is trying to display may not work as well for her.
Yeah.
You know, and make sure y'all like this, subscribe, tell a friend and tell a friend.
Somebody, Tamika has a question, just asking. It wasn't just sex, it was paid sex. So yes, for the escort. So that's easy to classify these sex workers and entertainers as being paid sex. For the defense, what they are tying and trying to bring out, that this wasn't a paid sex, you wasn't sex trafficked, you made this decision. This was, he was paying for your place to live because this is your partner. That's what normally goes on in relationships, that the man takes on the expense, the living expense, and you should take on the maintaining the household
or the nurturing of your partner.
Yeah.
I mean, just a guy said it yesterday. Well, now men are going to be held liable for taking care of their girlfriends. Well, the defense, like you said, this is what they're trying to paint with this particular witness, that, hey, this wasn't none of that. No trafficking, no nothing. This was a relationship that sometimes you got what you wanted, sometimes you didn't, but you knew what time it was. And the only reason that you're saying something now is because you didn't understand the terms and conditions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of having lawyers come and break down the complexity of cases like this, that are only complex when you are not a part of the profession to actually get a bird's eye view. So the fact that we have bird's eye views, and I've been on the state side and Tiff on the defense side, we have a different lens that we can view to see, oh shit, this is not good. Or we can say, they got that one. This is exactly how you do it, so that y'all can see the sides from both. Because if we only showed you the state side or the government side, your view would be skewed.
And we would be doing a disservice to our community. See, we're not like a lot of the other attorneys or the uppity ones or the this or the that you may want to look at. Yeah. We're the ones that are not afraid to use our voice to support our community. We're the ones that's not afraid to hold even our own accountable, to show what's right and what's just. We're the ones that's not afraid to trust God, even when the world tells us something different.
So we have a question. Did Diddy abuse Jane? Yes, Jane identified 2 occasions, one of which, baby, she put belt to ass on Diddy. Like when she saw that he was in Wyoming with what she believed was an underage. She went underage, but she was like a teeny bopper. She called him a pedophile. He got mad. She smushed his head and it went into the wall. Diddy, he kicked the door hinges off that door, got in there, put that girl in a headlock. She said, I couldn't breathe. She was able to get away. She ran a couple of blocks. But that's when the abuse happened. It wasn't this relationship that he had with her. The abuse happened later on. And I believe that abuse, unfortunately, was at the hands of her triggering words that were not true. And the fact that she put her hands on him first, it doesn't make it right that after the fact, he comes and he puts his hands on her, but abuse wasn't the DNA, but it became a portion close to the end of Diddy. So yeah, there was some abuse.
And then, based on what you just said and what we've seen in testimony, the abuse was coming from both sides. So Jane Doe definitely has some gems in there for the defense. And I want to share with people that don't know me or people that are just checking in. Even though I am mainly a criminal defense attorney, I still have my own personal beliefs and feelings about this case that are not saying that he should get off. So I want to make that clear. I'm not, just because I am analyzing this from the standpoint of what I do as a criminal defense attorney, that has nothing to do with my personal opinion on his behavior and what he's done to, numerous amounts of people.
Yeah. So I think that's something we touched on in the beginning, was the fact that this is for the first time we are seeing in HD where an individual is being put on trial for relationship assault, sexual assault in relationship rape. So don't let the fact that they are adding other crimes get in the way of understanding that this case is going to draw out so many things that women and men have experienced in relationships that have resulted in them being sexually assaulted by their partners, resulted in their no's turning into yeses by their partners, being having to have sex in order to keep a roof over your head because of your partner's manipulation and their games that they play with your mind. This is what we are seeing finally in HD, to where more people are going to have a voice and say, oh, no, I'm not. No means no. Because there are a lot of men now, the loudest ones that are in the comments are the ones who have heard no from their relationship partner. And guess what? They continue. They didn't think that no was valid. Yes, that no is valid. Yes, if you continue to have sex with your partner when they don't want to. Yes, if you set up other men to come and have sex with your partner and they clearly told you that that is not what they wanted to do, you are a rapist. And that is just the fact. That is what we are seeing in this Diddy trial, that is forcing men and women, because women also rape men. It's forcing them to see themselves in HD, and they can't fucking take it.
Yep.
They can't take
it. I was so surprised to see how many people, have found justifications for some of his behaviors. And that's because they've justified it in their own lives.
Yep.
How many, and speaking from my own personal experience, I've never lived with the man that I've dated. That's just me. Because of the concerns of manipulation, et cetera, et cetera. And I won't say those are the only reasons, but I will say from my personal experience, I've seen friends, other people, where they've stayed in situations because we got bills together. Ain't no love there, but we got bills together. So the people that are judging Jane Doe, judging Puffy, judging Cassie, please take a look at your own front door, because we've all been in compromising situations.
Yep.
Even the ones that say, oh, I wouldn't let my employer do X, Y, Z. You letting your employer use you now. So if Puffy came doing the 2 steps, talking about come to my all-white party, bitch, you gonna be there.
Yes.
Stop lying.
Yes. Gonna
because
be there.
I just
like,
said it yesterday.
With your titties perked up like.
Yes. I just said yesterday, during the heyday of Bad Boy Take That, We Ain't Gonna Stop, I would have probably been at the party too. Because this is what we thought was Black excellence. This is who we looked up to as a media mogul, as an entertainer, etc. So I hope that while people are watching this trial and tuning in to Public Opinion Court, tuning in to the Plugs Lawyer, wherever I'm at, I just hope that it does allow you to have the courage to make the changes in your own life with the things that you are being a slave to.
Exactly. Exactly. And listen, y'all, today, even though today was lukewarm, we got a chance to educate you on other aspects of how defense attorneys should be crossing witnesses, how missing opportunities could have brought it home for a certain side, how using their words against them, using their behaviors, and highlighting some things that are uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to talk about the things that we talked about today, but we got to get out of that, because until we do, we're going to have more women like Jane Doe, more women like Cassie, more women like Gina, more women like Mia that stay in toxic environments because they become codependent, to where they suppress their reality because it's comfortable to be in the pain and not out of the pain. So I hope that this helped clear and also get y'all minds, lubricated. Unfortunately, I have to use lubricated because,
I don't want to be lubricated with baby oil, sis.
Listen, but we had to lubricate their brains with the law. So we had to do it. So we had to get it all moist up in there so it can, be ready for the rest of, this trial. So
right. And stay tuned to Public Opinion Court. Stay tuned to Real Life Street Stars. Yes. Check out the stuff that I'm on. Fatal Attraction, For My Man, Street Legal South. Yes. And just we appreciate the platform. We appreciate those tuning in. And we further appreciate those that give us the proper respect that we have earned as licensed attorneys in United States. Because it's very disheartening at times when we give of ourselves, we give of our expertise, and we get the comments such as some of the lame ass comments we seen earlier. It's no room for that when we are honestly giving you the things that you need to decipher for yourself what's going on. Yeah, there's a lot of influencers talking about this trial. Yes, there's a lot of popular people talking about this trial, but how many licensed, experienced attorneys are bringing it and breaking it down to you at this level? So definitely like, subscribe to my YouTube, like, subscribe to the Public Opinion Court, Real Life Street Stars. Yes, let's get it.
We put our cash apps are in the,
Yeah, y'all can bless us.
So listen, if y'all want to bless us,
look, sis, we ain't even asking for 10,000 a month.
We ain't even asking for 10,000. You know what I'm saying? So if you feel it in your heart and your soul to bless,
if it sizzles in your spirit today,
if it sizzles, if it does something in your tummy to where it repels to your heart, because sometimes the heartburn, but baby, this blessing.
And we thank the people that's showing us love too. A guy yesterday said he couldn't concentrate because we were so pretty and smart. So we appreciate the love as well. If y'all want to treat us to lunch or something, y'all see our cash apps.
Yes, and don't forget to make sure you are following both of our social medias that is highlighted. Our business pages are highlighted within our social media accounts. Make sure you are tuning in for the daily recaps of the Freaky Rico trial. Tomorrow the trial starts at 1:00. Thank God, because I'm just like, it's a lot. It's a lot. But I think it's very important what we're doing and what we have been able to give to the viewers and the context and the feedback. and our experience to where they like, oh, tuned in.
Yep.
Be back. I'm coming.
We appreciate all the
Yes.
tune-ins. Look, going back to the nepotism, we want public opinion court, hood court, street legal south, all of those things for our children's children. So we appreciate all of the support from everyone watching, supporting, sharing it,
Yes.
telling a friend to tell a friend. And yeah, if y'all want to see me back on public opinion court, y'all better flood my girl with the comments.
Yes.
And
Like,
maybe I'll be back.
Comment and say, you know, come back. Or no, we need y'all to put the plugs lawyer. If y'all want the plugs lawyer to come back so we can lubricate those brains again.
With the freaky dicky trial, the freaky dicky Rico trial recap. So yes. Tell Lawyer Bay Esquire that you want me to come back, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah,
until then, thank you, sis, for having me on your platform. Thank you, Real Life Street Stars. And we gonna keep giving the people what the people need, even if they don't know what they fucking need.
Yes, because listen, at the public opinion court, you know, the reality ain't the truth, but people think their opinions are. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, tell a friend to tell a friend. And we will see y'all.
Bye.
In another episode. Good night.